Hi babe, have you ever thought about getting your hormones tested at home? I am going to share my experience of getting my hormones tested at home from Let's Get Checked and share how you can do it as well. So my name is Laura Shrell and I am the founder of Balanced Bombshells, where we get together and learn about our hormones and really learn how to support our minds and bodies in the best way possible. I have actually gotten my hormones tested through my doctor, and it was just not, I was a little nervous of essentially learning all this information. So a few years ago, I went and got my hormones tested through my doctor, and they just told me to go at my earliest convenience, and they didn't really take into account of my cycle or how my hormones were fluctuating throughout the month. So there are specific hormone tests that are better done at certain parts of our cycle, and so it's then going to give you the best results of what is essentially really going on with your body. So that's why I really loved learning about Let's Get Checked. So Let's Get Checked is a company that will send you these hormone kits at home, and you actually test yourself, and you create a whole profile online, and you're able to then submit the results back to a lab, and then they actually have a nurse call you to give you the results of your test and really go over them with you. But they also tell you when on your cycle you're supposed to be testing them to get the best results possible. So a few years ago, when I had gotten my hormones tested, they just did like a full panel. If you know any of my backstory at all, my hair had been falling out, and so they were thinking that it was a thyroid problem, and they just wanted to really eliminate any of these things that could have been going on within my body. So my hormones came back balanced, and they congratulated me for having such balanced hormones, and I was like, well, my hair's falling out, I really don't think that that's correct. So I learned that I had a progesterone deficiency, which was the root cause to why my hair was falling out. So it wasn't my thyroid. My body was too elevated in estrogen and was throwing off my ovulation, which was then really throwing off my entire cycle, and then led into my body essentially then letting go of my hair, when obviously that was just a sign of telling me that something was wrong. So I really appreciate tests that really dive into the specific problems. So Let's Get Checked, if you ever go to their website, it's LetsGetChecked.com. And they have different tests where you can test your cortisol levels, your thyroid, you can test your female hormones, you can test your ovarian reserves. Those are how many viable eggs essentially you have left within your body, so if you've ever been thinking about fertility. And so these are really great tests to do if you suspect estrogen dominance, if you have PCOS, if you have any other sort of hormone condition, if you suspect a thyroid condition that can really throw off your metabolism as well. So if you're having a hard time maintaining weight, or you're having a hard time losing weight, these are things that you really want to be able to get checked. And so you can absolutely go to your doctor to be able to get all of these tested, but you can also now use these resources that are available to us online to get them tested in the comfort of your own home. So when I first learned about Let's Get Checked, I ended up doing 2 of their kits, and I was a little bit nervous because I do not do needles well, and I was really nervous of knowing that I needed to prick my own needle to be able to draw the blood sample. So they do need to take a blood sample from you that you then mail back into the lab. So I was a little bit nervous, and I was just like, okay, Laura, put on your big girl pants, you can totally do this. People are doing it all the time. So when the kits arrived, I was really excited to see how easy it was. So they have, each one has these codes that you then create your own profile online, and then you submit the code that is on the specific kit, so they can match your test results to your profile. And then they each come with a little vial that you then put your blood sample in. And then they come with, and this is where I was nervous, because I was like, am I going to literally have to take out a needle and do this? And thank the Lord that they have these little needle kits right here. So it's almost as if you're diabetic and need to test your insulin levels at home, where you then just place it over your finger so you never see the needle, and you just push it down and it pricks your finger. So from my experience, I had to watch the how-to video about 3 times to make sure that I was doing this correctly. So they have phenomenal resources online, so you're able to just walk you through how to do this. And so I watched the video first before I did it, and I had to make sure that I was fasting from the night before. So before taking a blood test, it's just like if you were going to the doctor, where you then don't eat before the test. And so I really appreciated this because sometimes you can't get to the lab until like 9 or 10 a.m. and you're like, I'm used to eating at like 6 or 7. So this was really great to be able to get up and just do it and not have to worry about driving to a clinic. And then they give you, all of the pads that a doctor's office would have to sterilize your finger beforehand, and they really walk you through how to be able to prepare yourself to be able to take this test. And then while I was doing the test, I was not getting enough blood from each finger. So you have to essentially allow the blood to drip into the vial, where that to me was a bit off because when you're at the doctor, it's super quick where they just draw the blood and like that's it, and they're able to get like enough blood from one finger. I clearly need to like learn how to do this better because I had to prick 4 fingers to be able to get enough blood to be able to fill the vial. Because if you send it back when it's not completely full, like there's a specific line that it needs to be at, they're gonna send it back, and then you essentially just wasted money on paying for this test, and your sample essentially wasn't viable. So I wanted to make sure that I was, putting in like the correct amount. So that I was not expecting, and that was a little bit overwhelming. So I then had to prick 4 different fingers, and they give you 4 different ones of these. So you don't then reuse one to then prick your finger. You use a brand new one. So thankfully from 4 fingers I was able to do it. That was something that I wasn't expecting, but it was also my first time, so just going into this, like I had no idea. My fiance Tyler has also done one of these kits from another company for food sensitivities, and so he was talking about how like you really need to shake your hand and really be able to get the blood flowing to your fingers. So I might not have also been getting the blood flowing enough through my hands of what I needed. So the 2 tests that I'm doing, so one I did the Ovarian Reserve, which tests your eggs for fertility, and then the second one I'm doing, I have to wait until the 3rd day of my cycle, so the 3rd day of my period to do it, but it's a female hormone panel. And so I'm waiting on doing that one, but I did do the Ovarian Reserve, so I wanted to talk a little bit about that next. So the Ovarian Reserve test is if you've been thinking about having children, if you're just curious of the state of your fertility, this is one test that can go into your fertility. And so it's not your entire like viewpoint. So you can't then just take this test and think, okay, I'm going to be all set for having children. There's so many things that go into fertility, so I just want to bring that up. So this is just one test to really test one specific hormone in our body that is going to tell us how our eggs are doing essentially. And so that's the test that I did, and then the female hormone one is the one that it's testing, I think, like 4 different hormones that go into our ovulation. So if you've been thinking about fertility, this is something that will test how your body is ovulating, and that's really something that we obviously need to be working correctly, not only for a happy and healthy cycle, it really goes into how our period is, but also we need to be ovulating if we then want to get pregnant. So these are the 2 tests I chose because I'm getting married in May, and then my fiance and I have been talking about starting a family. So I was really curious about the state of my fertility. I honestly hadn't really looked into this. I know that I've corrected my ovulation issues. My period was super delayed, so if I had tried to get pregnant 2 years ago, it would not have happened for me because I was not ovulating correctly. So I was a little bit nervous on actually doing these tests where my mom, I was talking to her about it, and she was like, do not take this as like the holy grail, like just go into it with an open mind. It's really good to have the information, but just know there's so many factors that can go into fertility. So do not just think that, okay, it's not going to happen, or oh my god, it's going to be so easy. So really, taking a step back and going in with an open mind, and really just whenever it happens, and sometimes things happen in life where we're meant to do certain things before something else that we truly want to happen comes into our life. So that is the mindset that I really went into doing this in. So I did the Ovarian Reserve test, and I was calling my friends because I was nervous, and I was just like, this is like gonna tell me like the health of my eggs. Like this is just something that we don't ever think about, and I was honestly really nervous. So I took the test, I pricked my 4 fingers, I sent it in. So you have to make sure that you send the test in the same day. So it comes with a bag that's already like prepared to be put in the mail, so all you need to do is drop it off at a UPS or a post office. So you want to make sure that you're able to get to one of those places the day that you do this test. And so I did that, and then they usually give your test results back within 5 days. So once they receive it, it'll take about 5 business days for you to be able to get your results. And so what I really loved about this, and that I wasn't expecting, was that they actually had a nurse call me and go over the results with me. So I actually just thought I was going to get them online, and I would just have to like read through whatever report they gave me. But they actually, before they released the results online, had somebody call me. And then I didn't get the call right away, so they actually sent an email to be like, when can we call you? What's a convenient time? And when I responded, they called me like right away. So I just loved that level of customer service, and just, it really made me feel like I was being taken care of, and like being given the knowledge that I needed to be able to then have the conversation about these results, versus, you know, the annoyance of having to do a doctor's appointment and have to wait like 3 weeks before you can go in or get somebody on the phone. So I just really, really appreciated the speediness of it. So from my results, and I'll share this with you if it's at all helpful. So the Ovarian Reserve test, it really talks about the viability of your eggs. So they said that it was ranked on a range from like 0.5 and 8.5, and don't completely quote me on this. And so the higher you rank on their range, the more viable eggs that you then have. So the health of the eggs that are there. And so I ranked at about a 6.5, and so I'm 32, so they said that for my age, that was really great, and that meant that the health of my eggs were really viable for fertility. So I thoroughly appreciated hearing that. And then they said that these are the types of numbers that some women in their early 20s might also see. So it made me feel really good of like, okay, knowing that I'm taking care of my body, all the healthy eating I've been doing, all the self-care, all the, you know, making sure that I'm exercising correctly and not over-exercising, which can throw off our bodies, and absolutely threw off mine. Just knowing that the efforts that I was putting into my body was actually really helping protect my fertility and any future children that Tyler and I decide to have. So Lacey is also here with us on our video today, so if you see her walking around. So I just thoroughly kind of like took a step back and just kind of like sat with that for a minute, and I kind of did a gratitude prayer after I got off the phone with the nurse, and was just like, okay, like whatever happens in the next year or so happens, and I'm really going to go into it with an open mind, and I'm not going to completely stress about it, but I know that I'm just going to keep moving forward and taking care of myself, and knowing that that at least this test came back positive. So I have to wait for about another 2 weeks before I can do the female hormone panel one, so that will happen on day 3 of my cycle, and then that will give me a more overview of how my ovulation is doing overall. When I did my hormone test at my doctor's about 2 years ago, my luteinizing hormone was off, and so that's one that's actually tied to our ovulation to help stimulate the egg to then be like dropped and have essentially a regulated period. So that one was off, so I'm a bit curious of how the results come back, and I will absolutely share that with you. So if you're at all interested in doing one of these tests at home, you can visit LetsGetChecked.com. I will leave the link in the description below, and then I'll also give you a coupon code to save 15%. So if you use the code BOMBSHELLS with an S, you can save 15% on your order and be able to do these at home. And connect with me on Instagram. Let me know. So I'm on Instagram at BalanceBombshells, and I'd love to know, you know, what your experience was, how you enjoyed doing this, and then just pricking your finger at home. Like, it was a bit overwhelming. But also, funny story on that is I made dinner that night, and I was like chopping onions, and you need to make sure that you're then not going to be chopping things later on, because it stung so bad on the 4 open wounds that I had. So that was kind of like a funny chuckle of like, okay, got it. Make sure that I either like keep the band-aids on or make my fiance do it for me instead. So thank you so much for joining me, and I will talk to you soon. Bye, lady.